Picture the closing table. You sign your name a dozen times, somebody slides the keys across, everybody shakes hands. And you did everything right. You waited out the frenzy, you negotiated hard, you got money knocked off the asking price that would have been unthinkable 3 years ago. For about 4 months, it feels like the smartest thing you have ever done. Then an envelope shows up from the county, and the number inside is not the number you saw on that listing. It is not even close to it. Nobody lied to you. Nobody broke a single rule. The number on the listing was completely true, it just was not yours, and nobody at that table was required to explain the difference. There is one Texas town where that gap is the widest and best hidden in the state. And here is the part that makes it strange. In that town, home values are not even falling. They are holding up just fine. It is still the worst place in Texas to sign right now, and I am saving it for number 1. So let me be clear about what this video is, because it is not the one you have seen 100 times. Every channel out there will warn you that prices might fall. That is the easy warning, and honestly, right now, it is half wrong. Redfin puts the Texas median sale price at about $342,000, down under 2% over the past year. Statewide, that is a soft landing, not a catastrophe. So the mistake is not that prices might fall. The mistake is that in these 10 Texas towns, something structural is baked into the purchase itself, something that makes you, the buyer, swallow a cost you never priced in, a tax that never shows up on the listing, a neighbor who can undercut you forever, an exit that takes years instead of weeks. These are buyer mechanics, and every one of them is completely invisible in the photos. I am naming Zillow on every single value in this countdown so you can check all of it yourself. Coming in at number 10 is Princeton, up in Collin County, northeast of Dallas. Zillow puts the typical Princeton home value at about $300,000, down nearly 8% over the past year. Princeton was one of the fastest growing small towns in America for a stretch, and builders responded exactly how you would expect. They built everything all at once. Now, Collin County is sitting on thousands of active listings and roughly 3/4 of sales that are closing below asking price. Here is the mechanic that should worry you. When you buy in Princeton, you are not just buying a house, you are buying a position in a very long line. If you need to sell in 2 or 3 years, you are competing against hundreds of nearly identical homes on nearly identical streets, several of which will be listed by a builder who is still finishing the next phase. Selling here becomes a project measured in years. Too many doors, not enough buyers walking through them. And that is before the thing at number 9 gets added to your bill. Number 9 is Anna, a little further north on the same corridor. Zillow puts the typical Anna home value at about $360,000, down almost 9% over the past year. But the price is not the trap here. The trap arrives every 12 months in the mail. Anna sits in the North Texas Hail Corridor, one of the most storm-punished stretches of real estate in the country, and Texas insurance premiums have climbed more than 55% since 2019, rising 21% in 1 year and 19% the next. Worse, the wind and hail deductible in this part of the state has quietly shifted to 2% of your home's insured value, which on a $350,000 home means you eat the first $7,000 of storm damage before your insurer pays a cent. And if your roof is over 15 years old, many carriers now pay out only its depreciated value, cutting your claim check by nearly half. Some insurers have stopped writing new policies in the worst of these zip codes altogether, pushing buyers into the surplus market or the state backstop plan, where you pay more and get less. None of that is in the listing price. All of it is in your monthly payment. At number 8, we have Celina, and this one is a straight-up ambush. Zillow puts the typical Celina home value at about $530,000, down nearly 10% over the past year. Celina is a luxury tier boom town, and builders there are currently handing out $10,000 to $30,000 in flex cash plus rate buydowns that can drop a first-year mortgage rate near 3%. That sounds fantastic until you understand what it does to you the moment you own the home. You are now a resale seller, and you are competing against a builder who is still building 3 streets over, who can throw $30,000 at your buyer, and who will simply never run out of money before you do. You cannot match that. Your home is undercut on day one by design. Builders across the Dallas and Fort Worth region started nearly 18% fewer homes late last year, which tells you how much finished product they are still clearing. Until that inventory moves, the builder sets the price of your street. You just live on it. Number 7 is Hutto, back in Central Texas, and this is the one that dresses up as a gift. Zillow puts the typical Hutto home value at about $353,000, down almost 11% over the past year, one of the steeper falls in the state. Builders here are moving standing inventory with aggressive incentives, but there is a string attached that almost nobody reads. Those incentives are usually tied to the builder's own preferred lender, and that preferred lender can quietly hand you a higher base rate or fatter origination fees or a less competitive overall cost. So the buy down you were so excited about gets clawed back over the life of the loan. The discount is real. It is just that you are often the one quietly funding it. The fix takes one phone call. Run the builder's offer against an outside lender before you sign, and compare the total cost across the years you actually plan to stay. If the incentive only wins with their lender, you have your answer. Number 6 is Taylor, and Taylor is the most seductive mistake on this whole list. Zillow puts the typical Taylor home value at about $295,000, down about 5% over the past year. Taylor is where Samsung is building its enormous semiconductor campus, and for years people have bought here on that promise, paying a premium for a future that has not arrived yet. The pitch was staggering. Something like $17 billion and about 1,800 permanent jobs dropped into a small Williamson County town, and the site later landed a multi-billion-dollar deal to make chips for Tesla. Now look at the timeline. The plant was originally supposed to come online in 2024. Then it slid to 2026. Reporting now points to full-scale production slipping into 2027 or beyond. The campus is real and it is coming. But when one company's calendar sets your home value, you are holding a share in a stock you cannot sell and do not control. And every slipped deadline is a quarter of your life you spend waiting for a premium you already paid for. We are halfway down, and the last 5 get considerably worse. So if this is the kind of breakdown you want, the actual mechanics instead of vague warnings, subscribe to Texas Pulse and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach the people who are about to sign something. Number 5 is Kyle, south of Austin. Zillow puts the typical Kyle home value at about $340,000, down nearly 10% over the past year. Kyle was the great affordability escape valve, the place families went when Austin priced them out. But when the expensive city you were the cheap alternative to starts falling, your entire reason for existing gets compressed. And homes here are now sitting for months, with a large share of sellers cutting price before anything moves at all. Buying in Kyle means buying an asset you cannot liquidate quickly. And when life changes, a job transfer, a growing family, you do not get to leave on your timeline. You wait paying mortgage, taxes, and insurance on something still drifting downward underneath you. Number 4 is Pflugerville, northeast of Austin. Zillow puts the typical Pflugerville home value at about $370,000, down 7% over the past year. And here is a cost most buyers have never even heard of. Newer developments across Texas increasingly sit inside a public improvement district, which funds the landscaping, the trails, the entry monuments, all the pretty things that sold you on the neighborhood. That assessment lands on your tax bill on top of everything else, and it is separate from your homeowners association dues, which you are also paying. You toured the amenities, you just did not realize you were financing them. There is one mercy here. That kind of assessment can usually be paid off early if you have the cash, so you can buy your way out. Hold on to that, because the district waiting at number 1 gives you no such exit, and that is exactly what makes it worse. Quick question for you before we get to the top 3, and I want a real answer in the comments. Are you shopping in one of these towns right now? Or did you already buy, and this video is telling you something you wish you had known at the table? Drop your town below, because the comment section on this one is going to be more useful than anything I can tell you. Number 3 is Leander, and Leander posts the steepest one-year fall of any town on this list. Zillow puts the typical Leander home value at about $457,000, down more than 15% over the past year, 15% in 12 months. Run that math on a buyer who put 10% down last year. Their entire down payment is gone and then some, and they now owe more than the house is worth. Leander was the last stop on the Austin growth train, the newest construction, the biggest bet on demand that never arrived. Buying here today is not automatically wrong, but you have to be honest that you are catching a falling knife and planning to hold it for a decade. Now, the top 2 are both about that envelope from the county, and this is where the real money hides. Number 2 is Cedar Park. Zillow puts the typical Cedar Park home value at about $515,000, down more than 10% over the past year. But forget the value for a second and look at the tax line on the listing. That number is what the seller pays. It is not what you will pay. In Texas, the 10% homestead cap that protected that seller for years does not transfer to you. It resets the moment ownership changes. The appraisal district then resets your value to roughly what you just paid, and your own cap does not kick in until the year after you qualify, which means your first year is completely uncapped. A seller who bought a decade ago might be taxed on a value far below the market. You will be taxed on the full price you just paid. Same house, same street, wildly different bills, and the listing only ever showed you theirs. And that first year matters more than any that follows. Whatever number the appraisal district lands on becomes the base every future increase is measured from. Protest at that first year and you lower the floor for as long as you own the place. And that brings us to number 1, Fulshear, west of Houston, and this is the payoff. Zillow puts the typical Fulshear home value at about $608,000, and here is the twist. Fulshear is not falling. That value is actually up slightly over the past year. Fulshear is a beautiful, thriving, master-planned corner of Fort Bend County, and by every metric on this list, it looks like the safest buy in the state. It is not. Because almost all of that new construction sits inside what is called a municipal utility district, and that district is its own taxing entity stacked on top of your county, your city, and your school district. It exists because developers build these communities out past the city limits where there are no water lines or sewers yet, so the district borrows the money to put them in the ground and then bills the homeowners to pay it back. Newer districts, the ones still carrying fresh bond debt for all those pipes and drains, can levy rates above $1 per $100 of value. On a $600,000 home, that alone can run $6,000 a year, and it is on top of everything else. Now, here is what makes it the worst mechanic in Texas. Your homestead exemption does not protect you from it because the district is independent. You cannot prepay it and make it go away because the debt belongs to the district, not your lot. And those bonds can take up to 30 years to retire. So the rate printed on the listing is not the rate you pay in year 3. That envelope from the county, the one from the beginning of this video, is the sound of a buyer meeting a taxing authority they never knew they had joined. So that is the real lesson, and it is the opposite of what the headlines keep selling you. Falling prices are visible. You can see them, negotiate against them, wait them out. The costs that actually hurt Texas buyers are the quiet ones, the ones nobody at that table is required to say out loud. So ask which districts you are joining before you ask what the neighbors are like, and get the real tax figure for your purchase price, not the seller's. And if this was useful, subscribe to Texas Pulse, because we do this every week with the actual numbers. Now, everything we just covered is the buyer's version of this story, but flip the table around, because there is a much darker version. In a handful of Texas towns right now, these same forces have stopped people from selling at all. Not lower offers, no offers, homeowners cutting the price again and again while the listing just sits there and rots. Those sellers are frozen in place and they cannot get out. That video is next, and if your town shows up on that list, you're going to want to know now rather than later. I will see you there.